Hey there, deep diving friend. Ever feel like you're just putting out fires all day,
Yeah.
running on that hamster wheel? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But not really getting anywhere.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and lose sight of the bigger picture. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's where today's deep dive comes in. We're tackling this concept from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. That's all about breaking free from that reactive cycle. Have you heard about this one? Beginning with the end in mind.
Oh, it's a game changer. And you've come to the right place to really dissect it. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we approach life, not just some quick fix, right?
No vague self-help fluff here, right? We're all about actionable insights in this deep dive. So ready to map this whole beginning with the end in mind thing out.
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so beginning with the end in mind. It kind of sounds a bit like time travel, but I have a feeling it's a bit more grounded than that. Where do we even start with a concept like this?
Well, Covey starts with this powerful idea. Our paradigms, our mental maps. They can either empower us or totally sabotage our efforts. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
Mental maps.
Yeah,
Okay, like if I'm using a map of Detroit to try and navigate Chicago, I'm gonna have a bad time.
exactly. And we do this all the time in life, you know.
Yes.
We're trying to achieve these goals, but we're using outdated beliefs or assumptions to get there. It's like using the wrong directions.
Ouch, that one hit close to home. So how do we go about shifting those paradigms? Do we need some kind of mental GPS recalibration?
I love that analogy. And yeah, it takes a real conscious effort. Covey calls for a shift towards a principle-centered approach.
Principle-centered. Sounds kind of official. Break it down for me.
Okay, so think of it this way. Instead of basing your decisions on, fleeting emotions or external pressures or even other people's expectations, you ground them in these timeless, universal principles like fairness, integrity, honesty, the important stuff.
So it's kind of like having that moral compass that always points you in the right direction, no matter how lost you actually feel. I'm starting to see why this beginning with the end in mind is a big deal.
It's huge, and Covey takes it a step further with his idea of the two creations. He says everything we do, every goal we achieve, it actually happens twice.
Okay, twice. How so?
First, we create it in our minds, and then we create it in reality.
Okay, two creations, I get it. Give me an example. How does this play out in real life?
All right, picture this. You're planning a family vacation, right? You can dream about lounging on that beach, sipping mocktails, but if you don't actually book the flights, pack your bags, actually make it happen, that mental creation, it's going to stay just that, a dream.
Ouch, tough love, but so true. And I bet this applies to way more than just vacations. What happens if we don't apply this two creations thinking to our goals or even just our daily life?
Well, Covey says we end up living by default, not by design. We
Yeah.
simply react to what life throws at us instead of proactively shaping our experiences.
It's like we're living someone else's life instead of our own. Just drifting along instead of charting our own course.
Exactly. And this ties directly into the difference between, get this, leadership and management.
Okay, leadership and management. How so?
Covey says truly effective people, they lead their lives. They don't just manage them.
So it's not enough to just be efficient with our time or just be really good at checking things off a to-do list.
Right. That's management leadership, is about defining your destination first, knowing your values, your mission, what you want to create, and then figuring out how to.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, this all starts with getting crystal clear about what we actually want, what truly matters to us.
Exactly. And that's where the infamous personal mission statement comes in.
Okay, I gotta admit, whenever I hear a mission statement, I get flashbacks to corporate retreats and those generic, cheesy posters.
Yeah.
How does this apply to us as individuals?
It's not about sounding like a Fortune 500 company, thankfully. Think of it as your personal manifesto. It's about clarifying your core values, your aspirations, the kind of impact you want to have on the world. What's your definition of success? Not society's, but yours.
Love that. A personal manifesto. It's about defining success on our own terms. But how do we even begin to write a personal mission statement?
Well, Covey suggests reflecting on some big questions like, what legacy do I want to leave? What would I regret not doing? What brings me deep joy and fulfillment? That kind of stuff.
Whoa, those are some big existential questions. It's like we're going on a soul-searching retreat, but without even leaving the room.
And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be this heavy, drawn-out process, Even just jotting down a few core values like authenticity, kindness, continuous learning, that can be incredibly powerful in itself. It's about having that touchstone to come back to when you're feeling lost or unsure.
Okay, I'm getting a sense that this mission statement isn't meant to be this rigid document, but more like a living, breathing guide. something that can evolve as we do.
Exactly. It's something you revisit, refine, allow to evolve alongside you. And here's the fun part. Once you have that clarity, you can tap into the power of visualization to bring it to life.
Okay, so we're tapping into the power of our minds to shape our reality. Now we're talking. Tell me more.
Our brains are incredible, right? Covey suggests vividly imagining yourself handling situations in a way that aligns with your mission statement. So, for example, if your value is patience, picture yourself reacting calmly in a stressful work meeting.
Interesting. So if we consistently visualize ourselves behaving in ways that reflect our values, it can actually start to influence our real-life actions.
Exactly. It's about rewiring those neural pathways, you
Right.
know? Replacing those knee-jerk reactions with responses that are more aligned with the person you want to be.
That's powerful stuff. So it sounds like we've got this incredible tool in our minds and we can use it to consciously design the life we want. But there's got to be more to it than just, daydreaming, right?
Yeah.
How do we bridge the gap between visualization and actually living those values in our everyday lives?
That's where things get really interesting. Covey introduces this idea of the circle of concern and the circle of influence.
Two circles. Okay, you've officially piqued my curiosity. What's the difference between these circles?
Okay, so imagine two circles, one inside the other. The outer circle, your circle of concern, is everything you care about, from global warming to your neighbor's barking dog. It's all there. The inner circle, your circle of influence, is smaller. It represents the things you can directly impact, the things you can actually control.
Okay, so my circle of concern is like my worry list, everything that keeps me up at night. And my circle of influence is more like my to-do list, the things I can actually control.
You got it. And Covey says those reactive people, they tend to focus on their circle of concern, which leads to, frustration, a feeling of helplessness. Proactive people, on the other hand, they focus their energy on their circle of influence.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
When we focus on the things we can control, we feel more empowered. And that positive energy can actually expand our influence over time.
Right. Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for our choices and actions, even when we're faced with circumstances that we can't control.
But what about the things in our circle of concern that we can't simply ignore? Like a global pandemic or, a flat tire on the way to a big meeting. How do we deal with those?
That's where Covey introduces this really cool idea of being responsible.
Responsible. It sounds like more than just being responsible.
It is. It means recognizing that even when we can't choose our circumstances, we can choose our response to them. We can choose our attitude, our perspective, even our actions.
So it's not about pretending those external challenges don't exist, but about choosing how we respond to them.
You've got it. And that choice, that conscious decision about how we respond, that's incredibly powerful. It's about focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, our actions, our attitudes, rather than wasting energy on things outside our sphere of influence.
This is resonating so much. It's about taking ownership of our own experiences, rather than feeling like victims of circumstance.
Precisely. And here's how it all ties together. Once you've defined your values and created your personal mission statement, the circle of influence becomes your action plan.
It's like we've created our blueprint for success, and now we're using the circle of influence to guide our daily actions, making sure that every step we take is moving us closer to our goals.
Exactly. And that, my friend, is the essence of beginning with the end in mind.
Okay, deep diving, friends. So last time we left off with this idea of using our circle of influence to, actually take action. But how do we actually make those actions sustainable? Like, it's easy to feel motivated for a day or two, but how do we turn this whole beginning with the end in mind thing into a lifestyle?
That's where the, what's that phrase? The rubber meets the road, as Covey would say.
Yeah.
It's not just about these grand visions, right? It's about turning those visions into those daily habits, the little things we do every day.
Habits. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. I'm all about building those positive routines. So how does this whole habit building thing tie into beginning with the end in mind?
Well, remember those two creations we talked about?
Yeah, first creating mentally and then physically, right?
Exactly. Well, building habits is how we bridge that gap. It's about aligning our daily actions with that ultimate vision we have.
So it's like we're creating grooves in our brains, right?
Yeah.
Making it easier to just naturally act in ways that support our goals and values without even really thinking about it.
Exactly. And Covey gives us some really practical strategies for making this happen. He talks about the importance of making and keeping commitments, starting with ourselves.
This sounds like more than just, adding things to our to-do list. It's about making a promise to ourselves and having that discipline to keep it.
It is. It's about integrity. That alignment between what we say we'll do and what we actually do. And it's in those moments,
Yeah.
when we choose to honor our commitments, even when it's difficult, that we build that real strength of character.
It's like we're flexing those willpower muscles, showing ourselves that we can actually follow through on those intentions we set.
Precisely. And as we consistently keep those commitments to ourselves, something pretty amazing happens. Our self-trust grows.
And when our self-trust grows, we're more likely to take risks, to pursue those big, audacious goals, because we know deep down we have our own backs, right?
Exactly. It becomes this positive feedback loop. The more we trust ourselves, the more we're capable of achieving. And the more we achieve, the more our self-trust grows. It's kind of cool when you think about it.
Okay, I'm totally on board with this whole integrity and self-trust thing. But how does this translate into our interactions with other people? How do we stay true to our values while also, navigating the complexities of relationships?
That's where Covey's paradigm of think win-win comes into play.
Think win-win.
Yeah. It's about approaching our interactions with others with this belief that there's a solution out there that can actually benefit everyone involved. Not just me, not just you, but us.
Win-win. It sounds so simple in theory, but we all know how tricky relationships can actually be. How do we actually put this into practice? Especially when we're dealing with people who seem, stuck in that win-lose mentality.
It definitely takes a real conscious effort, that's for sure. Especially since, we live in a society that often glorifies competition over collaboration. It's kind of ingrained in us. But Covey argues that this win-win thing, it's not just some nice idea. It's a fundamental principle of effective human interaction.
So it's about shifting our mindset from me versus you to we. It's about seeing each other as allies, not adversaries, right?
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly powerful. It allows us to approach those challenges with a spirit of collaboration rather than competition, which, let's be honest, can be a lot more fun and productive.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, and that by working together, we can achieve far more than we ever could alone.
Precisely. And one of the most powerful tools Covey gives us for cultivating those win-win outcomes is the concept of the emotional bank account.
The emotional bank account. Okay, that sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So think of it like a real bank account. But instead of money, right, we're depositing and withdrawing things like kindness, respect, courtesy, and integrity. It's about how we treat each other.
So when we do something thoughtful for someone, when we keep a promise, when we show genuine respect, we're making deposits into that emotional bank account.
Exactly. And those deposits, they build trust and goodwill. They create this reserve of positive energy that can sustain the relationship, even through those challenging times. Because let's face it, no relationship is perfect, right?
And I'm guessing that on the flip side, when we're disrespectful, inconsiderate, or break our promises, we're making withdrawals from that account.
You got it. And just like with a financial bank account, if we're constantly making withdrawals, that account is going to be overdrawn. And when that happens in our relationships, trust erodes, communication breaks down, and it becomes incredibly difficult to achieve those win-win solutions we were talking about.
It's like we're depleting that reserve of goodwill, leaving the relationship vulnerable and fragile.
Exactly. So the key is to be mindful of our interactions with others, to make those consistent deposits of kindness, respect, integrity, all those good things.
It's about being intentional with our words and actions, recognizing that even those small gestures can have a big impact on our relationships.
Precisely. It's about creating a culture of mutual respect and appreciation, where we feel safe to be ourselves and to navigate those disagreements constructively. Because let's be real, disagreements are going to happen.
Totally. It's about building those strong, resilient relationships that can weather life's storms. But even with a healthy emotional bank account, conflicts are bound to arise. How do we approach those disagreements in a way that preserves the relationship and leads to a positive outcome?
That's where the power of empathic listening comes in. Covey really emphasizes that seeking first to understand is the key to effective communication. It's not just about waiting for our turn to talk. It's about really hearing each other.
Empathic listening, we touched on this a bit earlier, but it's such a crucial skill. It's about going beyond just hearing the words someone is saying, right? It's about really trying to get where they're coming from.
Exactly. It's about truly putting yourself in the other person's shoes, seeking to understand their perspective and their emotions, not just their words. It's about connecting on a human level.
It's about listening with our hearts as well as our heads, creating a space where the other person feels heard, seen, and validated.
Precisely. And that requires us to be fully present, to quiet our own internal dialogue, all those thoughts swirling around, and truly focus on what the other person is communicating, both verbally and nonverbally. Because sometimes what's not said speaks volumes.
It's about setting aside our own judgments, assumptions, and agendas,
Mm.
and simply being present with the other person, which, let's be honest, can be a lot harder than it sounds.
It definitely takes practice. But as we listen empathetically, something pretty amazing happens. We start to see the situation from a new perspective, which often opens up possibilities for creative problem solving and those win-win solutions we're always striving for.
It's like we're expanding our own understanding of the world by stepping into someone else's shoes. And who knows, maybe our shoes could use a little stretching too.
Precisely. And that's the beauty of empathic listening. It's not just about understanding the other person, it's also about expanding our own perspectives and growing as individuals.
It's about recognizing that we all have something valuable to teach each other if we're just willing to listen and learn.
Exactly. And when we approach our interactions with that spirit of openness and curiosity, we create the conditions for real connection and understanding, the kind of connection that makes life richer and more meaningful.
It's about building those bridges of empathy and compassion, recognizing that we're all in this human experience together. And sometimes we just need a little help navigating those choppy waters.
Absolutely. And those connections, those bonds of mutual respect and understanding, they're the foundation for a more harmonious and fulfilling life for all of us.
Okay, deep diving friend, ready for the final stretch of our beginning with the end in mind journey. We've talked about getting clear on our values, creating that personal mission statement, even navigating those, sometimes tricky interpersonal waters. But there's one more piece of this puzzle we haven't explored yet.
You're talking about Covey's concept of sharpening the saw.
Yeah.
Right. It's a good one.
Exactly. It's one of those ideas that really sticks with you. So, for those who haven't encountered a metaphorical saw sharpener before, break it down for us. What's the gist of this habit? Why should we care about sharp saws anyway?
Okay, so imagine this. You're trying to cut down a tree, right? But your saw, it's dull. You can hack away at it for hours, exhausting yourself in the process, but you're still going to make very little progress. Now, a sharp saw that slices through the wood with ease and efficiency is just, easier. And Covey says the same principle applies to our lives.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Keep going.
We need to regularly sharpen ourselves, our bodies, our minds, our spirits, the whole package. That way we have the energy, the focus, that resilience, all the good stuff to actually tackle life's challenges. Because let's face it, life throws a lot our way, right?
I love that analogy. It's a powerful reminder that we can't pour from an empty cup. We got to take care of ourselves first if we want to show up fully in the world. But sharpening the saw sounds pretty broad.
Yeah.
What are the specific areas we should be focusing on? Give me the specifics.
Covey breaks it down into 4 key dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social-emotional. And here's the thing. Each dimension is interconnected. It's all related. Neglecting one can throw the whole system out of whack. It's like neglecting to change the oil in your car. Eventually, things are going to break down.
Okay, it's like we're talking about a holistic tune-up for our lives.
Yeah.
I'm into it. So let's start with that physical dimension, because I think we can all relate to feeling drained or sluggish when we're not taking care of ourselves physically.
Mm-hmm.
What are some ways we can sharpen the saw in this area?
It really boils down to the basics, the stuff we all know, but sometimes struggle to actually prioritize. Getting enough sleep, eating nourishing foods, moving our bodies regularly, and of course, finding those healthy ways to manage stress, because stress is a killer, right?
Oh, tell me about it. It's like stress is just baked into our modern lives. It's
Yeah.
everywhere. So how do we actually combat it in a healthy way?
Well, it's about finding what works for you, right? For some people, it's meditation or yoga. For others, it's hitting the gym or going for a run. And for others, it might be something as simple as taking a hot bath or listening to calming music. The key is to find what helps you de-stress and actually make it a regular part of your routine.
It's about treating our bodies with kindness and respect, fueling them with good stuff, and giving them the movement and rest they need to thrive. I like it. So we talked about taking care of our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's talk about that mental dimension. What does it mean to sharpen the saw mentally? Is there a mental gym we can join?
Haha, I wish it were that easy. No, but seriously, it's about feeding our curiosity, expanding our knowledge, keeping those synapses firing. This could involve reading, taking courses, learning a new language, even in engaging in thought-provoking conversations with interesting people, or even just challenging yourself to think differently about things. to step outside of that box we sometimes get stuck in.
It's about being a lifelong learner, embracing that growth mindset, never losing that sense of wonder and curiosity. And, with so much information out there these days, it can be overwhelming. How do we even begin to navigate that?
That's such a good point. It's not just about cramming our brains with random facts. It's about seeking out information that aligns with our values, our goals, and our mission in life. Remember that personal manifesto we talked about?
Yeah.
Well, think of it like curating a mental diet that nourishes and inspires you, just like we do with our physical diet. We want to feed our minds with good stuff, right?
Absolutely. Junk food for the brain is just as bad as junk food for the body, maybe even worse. So we've talked about taking care of our bodies, our minds. Now let's talk about that spiritual dimension, because I think a lot of people shy away from the word spiritual, but I have a feeling Covey's definition might be a little more relatable, a little more grounded. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Covey defines spirituality broadly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily about religion, although it can be for some people. It's more about connecting with something larger than ourselves, something that gives our lives meaning and purpose, something that reminds us we're part of something bigger.
Okay, I like where this is going. So how do we actually do that? How do we connect with that something larger?
It's different for everyone, right? For some, it might be spending time in nature, really connecting with the beauty and awe of the natural world. For others, it might be meditation or prayer, or maybe it's volunteering for a cause they believe in, giving back to their community. The point is, it's about finding those activities that center you, that bring you peace, a sense of connection, a feeling of belonging to something greater than yourself.
It's about nurturing that inner spark, that sense of awe and wonder that connects us to the beauty and mystery of life. Love it. And finally, let's talk about that social-emotional dimension. What does it mean to sharpen the saw in this area? We've touched on it throughout our conversation, but I'd love to hear your take.
This dimension is all about our relationships with other people. It's about nurturing those connections, building trust, communicating effectively, and of course, practicing empathy and compassion. It's about remembering that we're social creatures. We're wired for connection, for belonging, and investing in those relationships that bring us joy, support, and a sense of community. That's what makes life rich and meaningful.
And it's not just about our closest relationships,
Yeah.
right? It's those everyday interactions we have with colleagues, neighbors, even strangers in the checkout line. It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that we're all just trying to figure things out. And a little kindness can go a long way.
Exactly. It's about bringing that same level of kindness, respect, and empathy to all our interactions, even the brief ones, because you never know what someone else is going through. Maybe that smile from a stranger is exactly what they needed that day. It's about those small acts of kindness that can have a ripple effect, spreading outward and creating a more compassionate and connected world.
I love that. Creating a more compassionate and connected world, one interaction at a time. So we've covered all 4 dimensions of sharpening the saw. And honestly, it feels incredibly empowering to think that we have the power to renew and recharge ourselves in all these ways. It's like we have this toolbox full of resources, and we just need to remember to use them.
It is empowering. And remember, it's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process. It's about making those small, consistent investments in ourselves day after day so we can show up as our best selves in the world, because the world needs that best version of you. It needs what you have to offer.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from clarifying our values, to cultivating synergy in our relationships, to embracing the power of renewal. It's been amazing.
It really has. And, beginning with the end in mind is such a powerful framework for creating a life of intention, integrity, and impact. It's about aligning our actions with our values, living with purpose, and making a difference in the world.
It's about creating a life that truly matters, not just to ourselves, but to the world around us.
Yeah.
And on that note, my friend, I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into beginning with the end in mind. Until next time, keep those deep diving gears turning. And remember, you have the power to create a life you love. Hey there, deep diving friend. Ever feel like you're